and welcome to Divisive Issues, the foul-mouthed, spoiler-filled comic book podcast where two fans and two non-fans talk about controversial or noteworthy comic books and comic book history. I'm Ryan.
I'm Sly.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl.
And we're still talking about Bleach, so still a little different than usual, but not lately.
Still noteworthy and controversial.
Yes, yes.
So now we're getting into the stuff Darryl's excited to get, show off to us.
I was excited about everything because I wanted to see how you guys feel about, early Bleach turning into more shonen stuff and then just really going into shonen stuff, which is what we're going to be getting into.
Yeah. So before we started recording, I said, Darryl, you're really going to have to help me on remembering what happened. I read this yesterday, but it's not that
did you read the whole thing yesterday?
I think over 2 days.
Okay.
So I started it
still quite a bit.
A couple days ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's not so I have to kind of formally apologize to Sly because we were like, oh, these characters are so distinct. But by this point, not even so much in their designs, but more in the importance in the plot. I was just like, who are these people? I don't really care about these people.
Wow.
So it's less that they look the same and more that I'm like, they all seem to be doing kind of the same thing.
Yes. Yeah,
so I had a very hard time distinguishing characters that I feel like I could distinguish before, that now I'm like, I guess they're the same.
I think I ended up taking a lot of time to read this section. All week I was just reading parts of it because for me, I was saying this to Darryl and Sly the other day, the action, even just the action in this, because it gets so crazy, I will defend the action in this. I think it's still decent, but it you need to read it slowly, which you didn't have to before, because it's the scale got so much bigger as it got less and less grounded in actual sword fighting, and they're just shooting giant energy beams at each other. You'll have a little speck of a person, and half the whole page is just this big wave. And if you're just scrolling through, you're like, I don't know what any of this is. You have to stop and be like, oh, that's old Korra, or however you say that name, and that's
Yora, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So before I criticize this batch, I will say this is my favorite out of all the batches we've done so far. I fucking love this. I love this fucking series now. Man. I want to watch the anime now.
No! Sly's gonna be the Arrancar defender.
I was so checked out here.
I actually really like this too.
Yeah, I fucking love it. My favorite anime fights ever in this fucking batch. But I will say one criticism is the art really does not guide your eye that easily. When Phil's
you have to work for it. You have to work for it.
I know, but there's a flaw. There's a flaw. I think there's a flaw.
It is.
See, that's a good point. But I didn't care to work for it, so I didn't.
No, but I'm on your side on that, Ryan, because you shouldn't have to work it. The story should naturally guide you through it.
Yeah.
And but Phil is right that if you do stop, because a lot of times I'll read through it fast, and since I enjoyed it, I would stop and reassess the situation, and I will be able to picture out. But naturally, as a natural flow of how lines of motion work or how things are framed, sometimes it's very unclear what's happening.
Yeah, you could read the other two parts pretty quickly and still get the flow of the fight.
Sometimes you can lose a little bit of the action. Yeah. Where you're is he being because sometimes he has a person teleporting behind them, and that doesn't telegraph too well.
Yeah,
but
this you have to work out. Yeah.
One thing I do want to say is I did not think this was bad.
Really?
I wasn't this is terrible, but while I was reading it, I was like, this is no longer for me. Because, I was like, these fights are cool. I understand the scope, the scale, the upping the stakes. I understood what was going on, but I was just, not invested at all. You know what I mean?
The whole world is at stake.
Yeah, but, to me, that means nothing, because is Bleach really going to end with the entire world getting destroyed? Probably not. But, the stakes of, how is Bleach gonna rescue Orihime? That was more.
How is Bleach gonna rescue Orihime?
I mean, Ichigo rescue Rukia. That's more interesting to me.
What's the big boob girl's name?
The big who?
Orihime.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So that's why I got confused. He's rescuing Orihime at the beginning of.
She's the main character. She's the main big.
That's why I was invested, because Orihime is in danger in the story arc.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and I like the beginning a lot.
This is why Darryl fucked up, thinking I'm gonna hate this, because one, I love ambition. Two, I love continuity. So when characters come back, I'm like, oh, it's that guy. He's
my
back.
God.
I did feel the same way because last time Darryl's like, you're gonna see all the captains for some reason just fighting the new bad guys, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it was cool to see them come back.
Yes, I was so fucking hyped every time they came in. I fucking love
Daryl,
it.
I got
Oh
you.
my
I got
God.
you.
I
my
just
son.
realized you guys. Then that means you guys would love the last arc because it
I will.
combines every single arc together.
I will say this. I'm defending it just because I went in thinking this was my least favorite out of the three, but I liked it still. I like all the Bleach we've read. I just like this the least.
Okay.
But there are a lot of things I can appreciate about it. As we go through it, I will tell you, obviously, the parts that I think are cool, but I do think it is very flawed.
Yes, absolutely.
But still, to me, I'm like, I could enjoy it for sure. I wonder, though, because I still feel like I want to watch the anime now. I wonder if this was dragged on for 600 episodes, if I could not blow my brains out.
It goes on for a while, and this was at the point where the anime was catching up with the manga, so they had, like, in the middle of some of the big fights, like, when a fight, like, ends, it'll just go into an entire filler arc, and then it's like, now we resume, like, this battle in progress in Karakura Town.
That's
I question the same thing, but the thing is, that's the same problem I have with most shonen. I can't. That's why I can't make it past like 20 episodes of most shonen because eventually I just get tired of it. So I want the thing that draws me into this is that it feels like it is building towards something where a lot of anime just feel like they're trying to think of new stuff to do. So where this one at least feels like it's everything's coming together in some way.
Yeah, which was like the cool thing starting off with Bleach is that it does ramp up naturally. You're not like at the end of this, there's a very clear like everything's kind of like wrapped up. Whereas before this, like from the very beginning of Bleach, it ramps up naturally to like Ichigo hunting hollows to Soul Society, and now it's like he has to stop.
Yeah, that's very true. So we're gonna do the same. We're gonna do the same thing where some's probably gonna spill over into next week. What are we covering? Like if somebody's reading along,
if you want to read, we're reading the entire. It's the dumb like arc thing where it's like it starts off with like I think they're just called the Arankar when they appear into the Hueco Mundo arc, into the fake Karakura Town arc, and whatever the thing is called after that. This is basically what I call this is the Arankar arc. The Arankar are Aizen, if you remember from last night, he's the big evil bad guy that went off, and he's like, I'm going to go essentially to hell. I'm going to take all these hollows, all these evil spirits, and with this magic MacGuffin, the Hogyoku, I'm going to turn them into Shinigami. I'm going to give them now Super Saiyan powers so that they can fight against captains of Soul Society and whatnot.
Can I say one thing I appreciated about the whole series is that the Spanish naming convention in it is interesting because every time I've seen anime do a foreign language that's not English, it's German usually. There's like this is random German names in anime for some reason. But this is the first one I've seen.
Probably World War II, right?
Probably. But this is the first one I've seen that actually uses a lot of Spanish names, like Hueco Mundo.
That's what I like, is all the Hollow stuff is Spanish. The next arc, the one we're skipping, is all English, and the final arc is all German.
Oh.
That's cool.
That is interesting. Because even the Arankar have their own ranks. And of course, the guys that are human size that can sword fight you are the strongest. And they're called espadas, and I'm like, I remember that being sword in Spanish. I'm like, that's cool. That's like a cool thing.
Yep. Because it goes from like, here's all these Japanese names like the captains use in Soul Society to now here's everyone has like a Spanish attack or a Spanish name for their transformation.
They're cool.
Yeah, it feels more like a world than just, than I was expecting.
So we're covering chapters 179 to about 424. And this went from 2006 to 2010. This arc ran from.
Man, that's a long time.
And I mentioned this before, but I compile PDFs of 600 pages for these guys to read through, so I jump around a lot, and this has the most jumping around. Well, the last chapter is going to have the most jumping around, or the last part that we're going to be covering. But here, we already skip a whole bunch of stuff in the introduction where basically what's been happening is the Arankar, Aizen's hollows, have been appearing out into the world, and they've just been scoping things out for him, doing the power level stuff of if Frieza sends Saiyans to a planet and they're like, oh, I see, no one has a power level above 5 here. That kind of stuff. So they've already encountered the main cast. And you had this
as we've previously established, my favorite thing about anime.
And there was this really touching moment that I couldn't include because it was too many pages to try and cut together. Because again, I'm trying to give you guys single chapter bits. I don't want to take pieces out. I want you to get the full experience. And there's this one instance, like, Ichigo tries to fight them when they appear. He's like, oh, this is easy, because he can go into Bankai and kill them pretty quickly. But as soon as he does that, like, his hollow self starts trying to, like, come through and fight. And he's like, no, I can't do this. And then he loses his powers, like, immediately. Like, his sword untransforms and stuff. And so he's having troubles because he wants to fight, but he's afraid of his hollow self taking over again. And what ends up happening is, like, a bunch of Soul Society captains dress up as high schoolers and, like, enter his class because they have to, like, talk to him and stay in the real world because all of the Arrancar are appearing. And it's like, it's a really dumb scene. We get this touching moment where he meets Rukia again because he didn't think he was going to see her ever again. And she sees him, and then she just drags him outside, and she's like, go fight this hollow. And he's like, what? I'm afraid. And she's like, you shouldn't be afraid. If the Ichigo that I knew wouldn't be afraid, he would, like, stand up to that. He would get stronger, and he would fight. You know, it's the usual shonen bullshit of just, like, you just don't lose. That's what you have to do. If you're afraid, don't be afraid. And he's like, you're right. Thank you, Rukia. And so after we have, like, that really nice moment between them.
To defend that trope in shonen, that's also how, like, real life works all the time. When people are like, I'm really worried about doing this. People are like, just do it.
Yeah,
and then you, like, have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can appreciate that in shonen, that sometimes it's like, it is like a willpower, or not willpower, it's like a confidence thing a lot of the time.
It's
like,
peer pressure.
I mean, a lot of things in life is that.
Yeah, you have to just do it anyway.
Yeah. And there's also, like, this interesting twist, again, where it's like, Bleach isn't about, like, love stories and stuff, but Orihime sees that Rukia can do this for him, and then she starts feeling inferior because of that. She's like, Rukia was able to, like, pull him out of this funk that I could not, about him being worried about fighting and whatnot.
That's cool.
Yep.
Spoilers, Orihime's still my favorite character.
Yeah, but I was gonna say Orihime. You were saying, oh, this really doesn't develop Orihime and Ichigo's relationship. I care about this relationship more than I care about most fucking shonen romances.
Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely. I was, like, really invested in it when they explore it more in this beginning part.
So
Okay.
no, I'm saving it for when we get to it.
Yeah.
So this is the start of, like, the PDF I've compiled, and it's all of the, like, the captains appear at Ichigo's house in the ceiling, and this is
feels very comedic, very return to the old format where
we got some boob close-ups.
Yeah.
but like a lot of big action, like people like jumping out of the ceiling. Ichigo slams open the door open.
It's humor you saw from, like, the very first chapter we read and stuff. And also the translation that I got from this one is, like, the fan translated stuff. So you see a lot more, like, original in Japanese in here.
They have one part where he's like, "You're my best friend.
You're my Nakama."
Nakama is a word so powerful you can never translate in English. It's like it's the fucking equivalent of just according to Kaiku of this fucking story.
Yeah. And so that stuff can make it a bit hard to read, especially because there's some spelling errors. But basically, that's inside just in case we pull up, like, really dumb stuff, like how Khan jumps at the big boob Renkiku, and he's like, "That Seifuku is truly a dangerous weapon, Oni-san," and then she hits him.
What is Seifuku?
That's the schoolgirl clothes that she's wearing. Which is, again, why not? Those schoolgirl clothes are a dangerous, like, weapon, but whatever.
They do a lot of exposition here where they start talking about the Arrancars and telling the reader, hey, there's these three classes of Arrancars.
Rukia uses drawings here again, by the way. Just
as an aside, when I started reading this a few days ago, and I was, like, pretty tired, and they just start immediately expositing. I was like, I'm gonna come back later. I can't do this.
And it's funny. We obviously, it's like the stupid shonen thing that we missed before, where they're like, you know, that crazy guy you fought, that was just the lowest level of a Arrancar. That was just a Gillian. But there's the second class, which are Jukas, and it's like the bigger they are, the shittier they are. Like in all shonen, like or like Dark Souls, like the more
human they are, the more human fights you can have, the better they are.
Yeah.
There is one exception to this I did not include. I'll get to, which is the dumbest thing that everyone that's read this arc knows about. In regards to bigger, does not correlate to stronger.
As lame as that is, I thought after Soul Society, they will never go back to fighting hollows ever again, so I was fine with it, because I'd rather have human hollows rather than them just fighting Reapers forever.
I agree.
Yeah.
So then, what's crazy is they say, like, the last class, the really human-sized ones, the little boy captain with the spiky, the ice powers. He says, "Let me just say this: the strength of a single Vastrode is above that of any captain." And he's like, "If there's over 10 Vastrodes, Soul Society's doomed." And then it cuts to Aizen being like, meet your 20 brothers. Like immediately, they're like, 10 is the worst thing that could happen, and he's like, there's 20.
My favorite too is how like Toshiro, the little boy captain, it says like how one Vestroad alone is stronger than a captain. And spoilers, I don't think any captains die in this. All the Vestroads like died, but no one.
Yeah, the captains are pretty fucking strong. They're like crazy.
And it's so funny too because some of them still do not go into Bankai and they still win against.
That's
them.
one of my problems with shonen is I feel like a lot of it is talked up and it's like super hyperbolic, and then when you see it, even though the fights are really cool and big, they're never to the scale that they say they are.
I think that's why I find this fucking hilarious. There's a show me and Ryan watched called Legend of Tomorrow, where I watched the first season. Every episode, they keep hyping up a new villain, saying, these are the time chasers. They're the most powerful villains ever. And they beat him at the end of the episode. Like, there's like 10 minutes of the episode, they come out of nowhere and they beat them. And that's all they did. And I was like, that's so fucking dumb. It is hilarious to me.
I agree. Like, this is like a shit shonen thing to do.
Yeah, if you betray hype, where you're like, this guy is so strong, like if you betray that, I feel like that stuff doesn't come back. You just get to a point where you're like, yeah, okay, like these next couple guys are going to be really strong.
And it's also, it's like the edgelord Mark Millar thing, where it's like, I'm the smartest person in the whole world. Like, it's always so hyperbolic, where if 10 could destroy the world, they have 20.
Yeah.
It's, if they had 10, then I could be like, okay, maybe they get lucky this time, or, you know, the power of friendship or whatever bullshit. But, like, having double the amount that will destroy the world is so silly to then not destroy the world.
It is like a, shitty thing.
It's not a realistic fucking thing. It's just a fucking story.
Yeah.
No, but it does ruin, it, like Darryl said, it is like a hype backstabbing
Destroyer.
thing. Like, I don't, we're rewatching My Hero Academia, so obviously I'm just I'm like, that is the best shonen I've ever seen. So like, I can't compare it all the time. But it's like there are ways to do the hype right, and this doesn't.
Well, I think the reason why we always compare it to like My Hero Academia is because I feel like for so long, a lot of shonens, we would just be like, well, you have to do this because it's a shonen. Yeah. And then when a show comes along, or a manga comes along that doesn't do that, you're like, oh, I guess you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But it's funny because that's like one shonen. Like most shonens do this. Like
But I'm saying like they don't have to.
I know, but like that's like saying why isn't every book series Game of Thrones? Like Game of Thrones is special because it defies most fantasy conventions.
Yeah, that's very true.
So Aizen's here, and this is where like this introduces you to the cast of this. Actually, there's another chapter later on that Aizen has the Espada. They're the top 10 Arrancar. They're pretty much the captains of the Hollows and stuff. Because this isn't. These 20 people aren't the Espada. There's 10 of them are the Espada, but it doesn't introduce you to them all. But this introduces you to like the two most important ones. Ukiura, who is a sad goth boy, and he is my favorite character in this arc other than Aizen.
I was into him right away.
I would say, like, you're betraying Aizen now, motherfucker? This one as peak? You're gonna fucking...
No, I love Aizen the most, but I love this guy so much, because he has no heart, and he's just, like, confused about, like, what is the heart?
He's like Darryl at, like, freshman year of college. Like,
yeah, it is that. And this other guy's Gorgeow, he's me. This guy's my favorite out of
Grimjaw?
Yeah, Grimjaw.
That's interesting, because a lot of people really love Grimjaw, and he was one where I wasn't even going to include him, and then I was like, that's just because I don't like him that much, but I should because so many people do love him.
He won like the popular. It had like popular con. He's like number 5 or something out of all.
Yeah, I saw that.
So Ukiura shows like this fight that they had with them to Aizen, and it's like, oh, I see. And then Grimjow's like what? You couldn't even like kill them. So Grimjow is all these guys have holes in their chests, just like the hollows that they fought before. Although it's not just in their chest; they can be in like different spots and whatnot.
This is why I was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, it can be a little tough to follow. But Ukiura has like a piece, like a bone fragment over his like head. It looks like a little half hat. And Grimjow has like a bone fragment, like a jaw over one side of his face.
Yeah, that's how I remember it. He has a grim jaw on his face.
Yeah. And so he's basically like, you were just being a sissy for not attacking them. You failed to kill them. That was
He's the
problem.
Renji of this group.
Yes, and this is like the core problem with Bleach. One of the core problems with Bleach. Bleach keeps going in cycles where Kubo, like the main enemies he can make for Ichigo are either Renji or Byakuya. They're either really loud and boisterous or they're quiet and cold and powerful.
You see how Yeah, I'm about to say genders. No, those are like but those are common in most. That's why I don't mind as much, because if you start a new anime from this like satisfies all your anime needs. Instead of jumping onto a new series and seeing these tropes being recycled, you can just keep watching this one forever and then see the same tropes recycled. And, yeah.
Oh, man. Why watch a new show when you can watch the same show but it looks different now?
For 15 years.
So Ukiyo defends himself. He's like, I didn't kill him because like there's a potential that he could join us. You know, he could harness the hollow powers and join up with us. And Aizen's just like, yeah, whatever, that's all cool. He sits here on a throne and he just like smiles all the time. And there's one point where like, because after this happens, we're going to skip ahead of this. Grimjow immediately after this is like, I'm going to go, he just takes a strike force of Vestrodes. He's like, I'm going to go kill Ichigo. I'm going to show them how it's done. And then after that, like, he fails to do it because Ichigo, like, puts on his hollow mask and whatnot. And then Aizen just, like, stares at him, and just with spiritual pressure, he puts, like, the fear of death into Grimjow, so he never turns his, like, back to him again. It's really good. I love how Aizen just has this constant presence where he's just super chill this whole time, and anyone that pisses him off, he doesn't even, like, need to do anything. He just puts his spiritual pressure on them, and they're like, oh shit, I'm sorry, boss.
That is cool. It's like the Darth Vader effect where...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're skipping ahead to where now Little Boy Captain's talking to the head of the Soul Society, the old
man.
captain, Yamamoto. And this is more exposition because I'm like, I need to tell you guys like why this is, because you'd know that they're all fighting, but it's like they're only in one chapter is it given why they're fighting. And Old Man explains it's like, so Aizen's goal right now is they basically discovered through like looking in the Soul Society library and stuff, which all this stuff, anything you see here is always introduced this chapter. So they're like, I guess there are pre-read records containing only material in the Hogyokyu in the library. But Aizen wants to make a soul key. And he wants to make a soul key so he can go see the Soul King, who is the head of Soul Society.
Guys, Bleach is stupid.
That's why it's fucking hilarious.
It is pretty dumb. I mean, it is.
Oh, man. And
it's
this
the royal key or whatever, the key to the king. Or
the
something.
Oaken, yeah. I'm trying to find, there's this one like line that was just so poorly translated that when I put this chapter in here, I'm like, I feel so bad for you guys because this is so much nonsense to just make a quick summary where Aizen's trying to make a soul key made out of souls.
I will say I forgot almost all the stuff until we got to it. I don't. It's funny because it really does not matter why they're fighting. Like
it doesn't.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, 1,000,000 compacts, a mile of soul miles in a land rich of souls, are separating from reality and is hard to grasp. So
you need to kill 1 million people to get a soul key. That's like.
Yeah, so Aizen's gonna go to Ichigo's...
I'm trying to figure out everyone's motivations, and you get things like, even in Soul Society there are such things as royal families. Even if he is called king, there's no actuality to his existence, since he allows for Chamber 46 to take care of all Soul Society's business and never intervenes. In truth, neither Taochu nor I have actually directly seen him in real life before. So the king is called the Spirit King, who is a representative symbol as well as an existing figure of Soul Society. And I'm like, what is this?
It's cool. He's like God. He don't see him, and he puts the council in charge. He's like, you guys run Soul Society. Theoretically, this person exists.
But what's
this is like Mickey Mouse to Kingdom Hearts. Like, oh my God, teasing the whole entire fucking
Ryan,
game.
You're asking right now, what does he do?
Yeah,
I am so amped for the final arc because it gets so funny with the Soul King. Real quick, do you guys think the Soul King is the final villain of Bleach?
No.
God usually is, but
do you think, Phil?
I would lean towards yes, but I'm not like 100%.
I think he should be, but from everything I've heard about when people are like, you have all these endings, why don't you take them? Like, that Bleach ends like 10 times. I'm so sure that he is not what ends the series.
When you guys said you expected Aizen to be like next fight and that'll be it, maybe it's because I see too many shitty shonen. I knew there was no fucking way that was the case. Like, it's gonna go on forever. It's gonna take fucking forever to get to Aizen. And it's gonna take forever to get to the Soul King. It's gonna take forever to get past the Soul King or whatever the final true boss is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I expected it to end last time. I was just like, this is a good spot to end.
So Sly, you don't think it's going to be the Soul King?
No, I will be surprised if it is.
Okay.
So the main thing we learn about this is that the location of the key has only been passed down through oral traditions and no books exist. So what Aizen looked at were documents that displayed the state of time when the Oken was being made, the Soul Key, right?
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is all like it's so funny because it's so easily summed up. Like, it's interesting to get into the intricacies, like that they don't have, and they don't know who actually like has the key. It's passed down orally, but the only idea is basically Aizen needs to blow up Ichigo's hometown, take all the souls, and make a key out of it so he can go see Soul King.
Also, one of the things that fucking bothers me so much about exposition scenes like that is commonly in exposition scenes, even though it's ham-fisted, it's necessary. We all have characters interject with questions just being like, hey, could you elaborate a little bit more? Mm-hmm. But in this, he's like, this like old guy is like, what he knows is the method of resurrection of the Oken, the Soul Key. And then someone's like, oh, so that means there's a problem with the resurrection? He's like, no. It's a different thing. And it's like, having them interject with wrong information makes it much harder for me to follow.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough, too, because, again, this is poorly translated, where I think when Rengiko interjects with there's a problem with it, she's saying, so Aizen is having a trouble, like, forming it, like he doesn't know how to form it. And he's saying, no, it's that he requires a lot of souls, so he has to kill a lot of people.
I think it shows the breaking point between me and Ryan in the story, because I did not give a fuck, because this is already the wrong way to deliver this information in the first place. Like, you should have this organically, like, distribute this information organically distributed in some way, and not have the spear key just be a MacGuffin, basically. Yeah. Like, all this is arbitrary, like, why they're fighting.
It's just because I, like, don't give a fuck about fights at all, I'm, like, grasping for, like, give me, anything, like, motivation, right? Anything. Yep. And they're just, like, I'm basically her being like, so there is a plot? And he's like, no, you are mistaken.
Or there is, but it's like, it has nothing to do with what we're going to do. And it's great, too, because this is being exposited. Orihime's just in this room. Ichigo's pretty much like girlfriend. She's just like standing around hearing all this because she just needs to tell Ichigo that he's going to have to fight soon. That's why she's hearing about all this.
Is there any reason why it's Ichigo's hometown other than there happens to be a million people there?
No. It's because it's main character.
The same thing. I was like,
that's
the only place in the world with 1 million people.
Yeah.
But that's I accept that from day one that shit's gonna happen. Like, it's funny because you guys have higher expectations for Swaggies, I think. Because like I've watched a lot of Power Rangers, I've watched a lot of shit like this where everything happens in Angel Grove. Nothing leaves Angel Grove. All the aliens want to invade Angel Grove. Everything's in Angel Grove.
I feel like you can see that with like everything, though. It's like how Spider-Man, like everyone that wants to blow up the world will happen in New York City or like.
But that makes more sense to me because New York City is one of the biggest, richest cities.
Whereas
in the
this
world.
is just like some Japanese district.
And the fucking Spider-Man has moved away from that. There are actually stories where he has to go to other towns and stuff, and they deal with how Spider-Man. It sucks not having a fucking buildings to swing off of and stuff like that. And those
far from home, am I right? He's far from home.
Yeah, exactly. but like in general, like most like cartoon shows, most like fiction in general is just for popcorn consumption. Everything's gonna happen in the hometown. Like nothing leaves the hometown.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or we could think of deeper motives that Aizen is trying to get revenge on Ichigo by killing him.
Yeah, he's just being an asshole. That's a pretty good explanation.
Yeah, but at this point, I never got the impression Aizen really cares so much about Ichigo specifically. He's just he calls him intruder, I think.
Yeah, Ryoka.
So the main thing is, if he follows the literature and completes the Oken, everything will be scraped off from the world and disappear forever. So he'll destroy the world if he does this.
Not the world. It's again, I think it's a problem with the translation because I think it's only blowing up Karakura Town.
Oh, but if you try, if that power level, you blow up Kurokai, you blow up the world by accident, probably.
So anyway, Orihime is like, all right, I'll tell Ichigo that they're going to have a battle in 6 months. They're preparing for Aizen to bring all of his Espada, the top 10 people, to come and fight against the rest of the captains. So he's got to be ready. And then I included a real quick, like, this cover image of Renji's hat says fuck on it. I like that because they're like the modern clothes. And then we're jumping ahead to chapter 234. And this is the third time.
This color's this page is in color. I didn't know. Is Orihime also a redhead?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew that.
Yeah.
We established this slide.
Yes,
we know we're from hentai.
But I will say, also one interesting thing is note. They say in some of the notes that manga in Japan sometimes has colored pages, but they never make them color in America apparently.
A lot of times the Tankobon volumes will have like the first 2 pages will be in color.
Yep.
Like that's why
it's a common thing.
Yeah.
So in this, Orihime is being brought. Basically, what happened is they're like, we think Aizen is interested in you because you have the power to reject reality, which I said last 2 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. You know, she can heal people because she's like, no, you didn't get cut. And so then they get healed. And Aizen's like, hey, that seems like a really cool OP ability I would like to have.
Yeah.
And so
I would too if I were him. I'm like, that is
Yeah.
broken. I want that.
So he sends Ukiora, the sad goth boy, after her in between like dimensions when they're traveling to go to Soul. She's going to Soul Society to be protected by captains, and Ukiora infiltrates in between dimensions, basically.
So I have a quick question about the sad goth guy.
Yeah.
Just previously when we saw him, and in like a display of, I guess, like submissiveness to Aizen, he took his eye out of his head and smashed it.
Yep.
Now he has both eyes again. Does that matter?
No.
Okay.
So that eye smashing, that's the only time that ever happens in the series. It never. No, wait. He can regenerate organs. That
Okay.
he's one of the ones that can do that. I forgot. There's
I
a
thought
fight
that was a
later on
big
where he's
deal.
like, I can regenerate everything but internal organs, I think he says. But he can regenerate limbs.
I
and
would
eyes, I
argue
guess.
that eyes are like pretty internal for the most
Yeah,
part.
again.
Well,
there's-
they show up on the outside your body, right?
Maybe it's vital organs can't be or something.
yeah.
Whatever.
I just wanted to know if there was a reason why he had his eyes back.
So
That
are
makes
there?
sense.
Wait, Ryan, by your logic, Ryan, are there external organs?
Skin?
I guess that is an organ. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I like these questions because
The penis.
I get to say how dumb Bleach is that none of that comes up again or matters. So he comes up, and immediately all he has to do is he swings his hand, and he basically blows these guys up. Like, he destroys an entire half of their body.
It's stuff you already did. This shit, like
Yeah,
they just explode.
but you already did is like they're like what, and then they explode. Whereas he's just like waving his hand, and his power is so strong, these people are being blown in half and stuff. And then she starts, or he may see them getting blown in half. Her bodyguards, they're escorting her, and then she starts healing them. And Ukiora is like, oh, that's interesting. This is why I want you to like come with us. And then he points out where it's like, you know, he shows them because right now Ichigo's in a fight, Rukia's in a fight, and he's like, these Arrancar are gonna kill your friends unless you come with me. So
Yeah.
you have to come with me to Aizen or they die. And she's like, okay, you got it. And then he does this really funny thing where he explains.
I
to her,
know he
it's
said, "Okay, you got it." She's like torn about this and says,
Yeah.
"Okay, I will."
Yeah. She doesn't want to do it, but she's like, you know, her safety doesn't matter as much as her friend's safety.
You got it, Mr. Emo Man. I'm going with you.
Yeah. And then Ukiora pulls out like this bracelet and he's like, okay, so this is going to make you invisible. I'm going to give you 24 hours to say goodbye to
This is so
only
fucking
one
dumb.
person. It's so contrived.
Yeah.
It is
so
so
he
dumb.
gives
This
her
is
this
the one
invisible
exhibit.
bracelet, gives her 12 hours to say goodbye. But if that person realizes that you're saying goodbye, it's a violation of orders, and
And then
He'll
he'll
kill
have
the
to kill
friends.
them.
he'll
Yeah.
kill the friends. What a
It is
This
so
is this is like a weird concept, but the thing that sells it for me is the art. Because what happens is
Yes.
she goes into
First, she leaves a note. She writes like a note because basically, little boy captain and other big boob lady have been staying with her. So she leaves a note like thanking them. She thanks her friend from, if you remember from the very beginning of Bleach, Tatsuki, that she was hanging out with and talking to Ichigo about. She like leaves a message for her, and then she decides that the person that she's gonna go see is Ichigo.
yeah. So as she's standing over him, and she
She
sings.
like flies into his house because she's pretty much like in spirit form now with this, so she can't be like she's incorporeal.
Yeah, she's Doctor Strange, fucking astral projection. So she goes to Ichigo, and Ichigo's unconscious and in a hospital bed, and she talks about how she wants to say goodbye to everyone. But
She notices like Ichigo's sisters are there hanging out with him because he's been like, you know, away for so long fighting hollow stuff that when he's there, even if he's injured, they like eating in his room and just being next to him.
So Darryl was like, "Oh, there's no romance. It's just gonna be best friends for life." But no, she tries to kiss Ichigo, like,
and she says, "I can't. I really can't."
and to close
she
up on the
leans in-
face, and like her she just cry. Her eyes are all welled up with tears.
Yeah, but she's smiling and she's like, "I'm terrible, aren't I? It's my last time to see you." And she just like slumps back. She's like, "You know, I had a list of things I wanted to do. I want to be a teacher. I also want to be an astronaut and also make my own cake shop. I want to go to Mr. Donuts and say I'll have them all. And I want to go to 31 and say I'll have them all." And she's like, "Oh, I wish I could live life 5 times over. Then I'd be born in 5 different cities. I'd stuff myself full with different delicious things, 5 times each. I'd have 5 different jobs. And then for those 5 times, I'd fall in love with the same person. Thank you, Kurosaki-kun. Goodbye." And this is probably my favorite scene in all of Bleach that we've done.
And
so far.
Darryl said, "Oh, this book doesn't have any romance. I'm invested more in this relationship than any fucking."
But I think the main problem that Darryl brings up is that like this I feel like this to me reading this felt very much like this is it's never going to advance behind this phase because it started with her pining for him and him not knowing.
Yep.
And like this, I really like this monologue. I really like her like focusing on the small mundane things because I liked her in the earlier episodes as like the connection to the mundane life, that she wanted a regular life but kept being put in these like big situations because she wanted to like care for her brother and protect like Ichigo and these things. And like this really rung true to me. But the problem is, does their relationship evolve past that? No, because she's still pining for him.
So
she knew she loved him, and he still doesn't hear any of this.
My counterpoint is that this inspired some hope in me that this would come back and develop further.
So,
and my belief is Darryl's exaggerating, and at the end stuff does come together near the end, and he's
okay, sure.
But like I think that this is great, and this does feel like this is a really great scene for me, but it's still like when you look at it as like an arc, it's not that different than what we've seen already. You know what I mean? It's more emotional and I think more personal, but it didn't feel like, oh, the relationship is advancing.
Yeah, if anything, you just got that she said, I would fall in love. It's like an admission that she does love him. That it's not just like she thinks he's cute or something.
It's not just some schoolyard crush. It's like a real...
So that is an arc, isn't it? That it's not a schoolyard crush and that she loves him. But now when she realizes that she's being taken away from him.
I think it is meaningful. Like I don't think it's like a filler scene or something.
Yeah.
Like I think it is very touching. And if you remember
I would argue it's an arc. Like it's obviously
it's an arc for her, but I don't think it's an arc for their relationship.
Okay.
Well, according to Darryl, nothing comes of this. So maybe it should be important that it's a personal arc.
Not nothing, but you'll see when we get there what comes of this.
Okay.
But if you remember at the end of the last episode, I said that there was one more like really touching thing, and when I was including this, I was like, specifically, I think, Ryan, that you would really like it. And this is going to be the one point anchoring you to Bleach. And
it really was.
Everything after this, you are not going to like, because this is the most touching moment in all of Bleach. And then it's just like this is pure action or like conflict. I think I could leave for a while because Darryl, you got me pegged. You could just fill in how I feel about the rest.
I disagree. I think the last scene is really touching of this fucking arc.
Oh, right. You're not wrong
Yeah.
about that. I feel like this is the most like touching one. This is why I bring up stuff where it's like the Rukia stuff is interesting, or Hime feeling jealousy. And there's one scene I didn't include where Hime talks to the big boob lady, and she's basically like crying because she can't confess her feelings about Ichigo, like she feels so strongly for him, and she's afraid to like lose him potentially to someone like Rukia. And this is where it's like, this is cool. I wish you were developing this more, Kubo, because he constantly like teases you with this, where it's like, this is an interesting idea, and it just nothing ever comes of it.
I think that's. I view Shonen as constant teasing for the most part, because they always set up a boss, and it takes forever for like I'm used to like Yu-Gi-Oh, where they set up Pegasus and then have to go through a whole fucking season-long arc where until you finally get to the Yugi versus Pegasus fight, and then you finally have to get to a whole season of just Pegasus and Yugi fighting, and it's forever just to see Pegasus' smug face get his face caved in, and that's what you're waiting for. The same thing of Eyes in here, like you're waiting forever just to see the fucking comeuppance for the villains, and like I feel like that's what Shonen exemplifies for me, and both the good way and bad way. So like I'm expecting that when I go into it, that it's going to be constant teasing for everything, pretty much.
Okay, did you like it, Phil?
The scene?
Yeah,
I did. I mean, like, I agree with the teasing thing that you do kind of always expect it to never go anywhere, but it is like knowing that it won't go anywhere does sour it for me, because like with the Aizen and Pegasus thing, you're like, one day they will get shit on, hopefully, like theoretically. Where with this, knowing that they won't ever be together, it's like,
well, that was not being specific.
I'm like,
true.
there's an asterisk you'll see at the end.
she's a hollow and eats his dick.
She eats his external organs.
I can't regenerate that.
You can regenerate the internal, not the external ones.
Okay, I can't regenerate that.
Only your skin and your penis can be eaten.
Ain't that always the way, you know?
So after that happens, Ichigo wakes up the next day and he's like, "Oh, I forget." He said something, and it's like he feels a little strange, or like, was it Orihime here or something? And then he goes to school, and no, he doesn't go to school yet. I forgot. I removed this chapter. Basically, Ichigo.
You skipped a shit ton of chapters here. All we have is the text. When we're skipping chapters, all we have is a block of text from Darryl in between pages, and it just says, Society Captain tells Ichigo, are you mistaken, that they'll rescue her in place of Ichigo since he's needing the upcoming war. Ichigo's upset about this.
So Ryan, this was another one, just like the Oaken, the spirit key. This was that kind of chapter of just like dense text that I can summarize within like a paragraph. And the one special thing that you get there is both Byakuya and Kenpachi get big splash page of them, and they're like, we're gonna go rescue Orihime. You have to stay behind for the war that's coming up.
That's cool.
Oh,
yeah. So then you're like,
I get it.
You're like, oh, that's awesome. They're gonna go and fight. You know, they're gonna infiltrate Hueco Mundo. They're gonna go to hell and fight.
And from what we remember, they're really fucking strong.
Byakuya is the brother who is Kichigo.
Kenpachi, Kichigo.
Kenpachi's the eye patch
The
guy.
eye
who's
patch
like,
guy.
I will love fighting.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
You
like if
guys
you're
are
gonna
make fun of me.
if you're gonna send two people to hell, those two are good. What?
You guys are gonna make fun of me when I read this note, Darryl, that you had, that they will rescue her in place of Ichigo. I was like, Ichigo doesn't need to be rescued. That doesn't make any sense. But now I get it. They're going instead of him. They're rescuing her instead of him.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So then he goes to school and you get like one scene of the teacher being like, "It's been a long time since you've seen each other, like 3 months." And he's like, "Are those new glasses?" And she's like, "I've had them for 3 weeks."
This is like in Power Rangers when fucking Bulk and Skull. The Power Rangers go to fucking space and stuff, and then Bulk and Skull show up like it's still like they're still 17 years old in high school, being like, "Hey, you want to get bullied by us?"
Yeah. Well, it's a neat like dichotomy here because Ichigo's really sad about like all these like real events that are transpiring. His friends are basically like, "Oh, high school's great. Here's this cool like game."
I just really need to spotlight how great it is to picture a bunch of bullies coming up to a group of kids and saying, "Hey, you want to be bullied by us?"
I couldn't think of how to frame that better.
So good.
Yeah, so it's high school stuff where his friends are like, "Hey, where have you been?" And one of them is like, "You like basically abandoned us, and you know what's going on with Orihime."
This is Orihime's
right?
This is Tatsuki. This is Orihime's friend from the very first thing of Bleach we were doing.
I really liked seeing her come back and being like, "I care about my friend. Like, you guys all went on these adventures, and I was just left home."
You have no idea how much I've read people commenting about Bleach going, "Whatever happened to Tatsuki?" Because after this, she's just gone.
But on the other end, stuff like fucking Dragon Ball, where people just become like background characters after a while. I find it interesting. That's why I mean when Kanui Junkie. I never expected any of these characters to come back. Any of the school characters to come back at all. So like even the fact that the writer cared enough to have this emotional scene that clearly showed she's aware of what was going on. She knows something of Ichigo and she wants to be part of it. And Ichigo basically pushes her out of the plot, but shows like it makes her feel like more like a fully fledged character. Like she wanted to be part of the plot. She was willing to be part of the plot because she cares about Orihime, but Ichigo pushes her out for her own safety.
And thematically, I think this works really well that she doesn't show up again because she's like, "I can do this stuff too. I can go with you." And he says, "No, you can't. You'll die." And
he doesn't even like
he doesn't say that, but like
he just says like this has nothing to do with you, and she punches him so that like his head smashes against the window, and this is when she yells at him and says, "Aren't we friends? Aren't we Nakama?"
Literally, Ari Nakama.
So I misspoke. I misspoke when I said that he's like, you'll die. But when he says like this doesn't concern you, get out of here.
I interpret it as that. Like he why get her involved when?
Yeah, but to me that's a lot more impactful when she doesn't show up again, because so many times we see that speech and then someone's like, "No, I care the most about my friends. I'm going to go anyway." And then it's like, why are you here? Like, you're not at this power level. There's no, like, you just kind of exist here for no reason. And I like that they actually stick to it.
One of the reasons I include this too is that I like the tension here because you get this thing of like that Ichigo's part of two worlds, but there's a cost to being a Soul Reaper and like a normal high school kid because he can't let other people be in on it with him. It's like a Soul Reaper.
Superhero thing.
Like Spider-Man at the end of Spider-Man 1 saying, "This is my power, this is my curse. I am Spider-Man." As he unzips his costume.
I am Bleach. So then they yell at him, and he's like. Basically, he tells the other friend, "Hey, can you take care of Tatsuki? Don't concern yourself with me." He has to basically turns back on his friends, and then we see the next scene. He's walking at night in his Soul Reaper outfit, and he runs into Hat and Clogs, who's like, he doesn't run into him. I think he's going to see him.
Yes,
and Hat and Clogs, because he goes to him because he's like, "You know the way to Hueco Mundo," and Hat and Clogs is like, "Yeah, I do."
It's like I figured that you'd come here, and part of the reason what had happened is Ichigo, during this, he went and trained with the Visors. Again, the people I'm never going to show you because they don't do anything. They're the people that they can use the Hollow Mask, and they can use that power now when they're Shinigamis. So they get both Hollow powers and like regular Soul Reaper powers. And he trained with them, and what was great too is then when he's training with them, Chad, the Quincy, and Orihime go to train with Hat and Clogs because they're like, we gotta get stronger, and you made Ichigo really strong, so you'll make us really strong. And he tells Orihime, no, you're not allowed in here. Like, I have to push you away. And then he later exposits here, it's like, I did that for her own safety because I didn't want her in battle because I knew Aizen wanted her, but she got taken anyway. So because of that, I owe you one, so I'm gonna let you go into Hueco Mundo.
And then the Quincy and Chad show up and they're like, we're coming with you. And he's like,
yep.
No, you're not. And then Chad does like super buff punch. Like, what is this attack?
This is his power. He has this super dope, awesome fist. Like
he's a monk.
He's
power.
Doomfist.
He's a monk. He's like any fucking.
He's closer to Doomfist because he can only use it like so many times, and it's super powerful and like blows up the whole ground around it whenever
like
he uses
Ichigo
it.
blocks it, but it like literally craters the ground after.
Yep.
Well, like Doomfist and like monks in D&D, they can do a lot of damage, but they always get killed very easily.
Yeah, and so they're like, he's like, I guess I'm coming with you then. And Ichigo doesn't say anything, and
the Quincy's like, I'm going to. So then they're like, all right.
By the way, we should note that Ichigo says like, even this is not enough, Chad. Like, please don't go, and Chad still insists, which I like because in Dragon Ball for far too long they had Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha say, one day I'll train and be as good as Goku. I'm glad the story at least acknowledges that Chad's already out of the picture.
No, it's Chad's the one saying it. He's like, are you saying that this power is enough? It's like, look how much stronger I've gotten, and it's not enough. So they're going to go and infiltrate Hueco Mundo. So again, you get the Bleach repetition where now they have to go rescue Rukia. Now this time, we need to go rescue Orihime. And it's the same cast infiltrating another, like, spiritual plane full of, like, 10 evil captains and all their underlings.
One little note that I just want to point out that I really liked is when Ichigo was arguing with Tatsuya before, and she was like, well, you're my Nakama. And isn't that what, aren't we? And he's basically like, he like feigns like, I don't care about you, fuck off. But then Chad, when he's like, I'm gonna go with you, don't carry such a heavy burden by yourself, that's what Nakama are for. And that's what convinces him. And I do like that parallelism where like there are friends that he has with some power that he is convinced by that same argument, but she was not convinced as just a like completely regular civilian bystander. And like, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Yep. So now we're skipping 40 chapters
that,
ahead.
That is right. That's one funny thing. I was like, oh, it's another damsel in distress getting rescued by the same gang going into it. And
again, you have a Renji waiting for him, and then above him's a Byakuya.
And I was disappointed. I was disappointed that Rukia wasn't part of this gang too.
Yeah, she is.
Okay, so yeah, so it's good. That was good. Fuck you.
They get in there, and Rukia and Renji show up, and they're like, we're coming to help you guys out.
All right, so I like this.
And it's hard because, again, I explicitly am doing this so I can show you all the Ichigo fights. But besides that, like, everyone else gets their own fights. Rukia fights one of the top 10 Espada. Renji fights one with Chad and the Quincy. Spoilers, all three of them can't beat this guy. They're trash.
Yeah. Well, if Ichigo beat Renji in the very first arc of the story, of course he's not as good.
Yeah.
So then we skipped a lot to where...
I forgot. I wanted to include this. So one of the things I wanted to include is you get this kind of interesting thing with the Espada. They are ranked. This is. I love this so much. They're ranked 10-1, where 1 is the strongest and 10 is the weakest. And as Ichigo's like fighting all these guys, or like as you're fighting them, you're trying to figure out like who's the strongest out of all these guys. Like what can they possibly do compared to other ones? Because he fights Ukiura, and he's like, you have to be second in command. You are definitely like right below Aizen in power because Ichigo's like using his Bankai and he still can't like beat him and stuff. And Ukiura's like, nope. He rips open his shirt and he's number 4. And he's like, no, there's still 3 dudes stronger than me.
That's a typical. This is maybe final form. I'm taking off my power.
I love that though because it's like there are 3 other people that are even stronger than me. And then right after he does that, Ukiura kills Ichigo to the point that Orihime has to resurrect him. After that happens, and then you have Grimmjow, the guy with the Renji type of dude. He shows up and he's like, as Orihime's healing him, he's like, make sure you heal him to full because I want to fight him at his full strength.
I love that.
Because they've already clashed swords twice.
I don't want to. So many of these people are like, the thing I want in life is a good fight, and so if they're weakened, it's not worth it.
Yeah, because that way you don't know if you're better than them because you didn't fight them at full strength.
Who cares? You win.
They're not doing it for win.
They
They're doing
care.
it to ensure that
A
they're better.
lot of this, like, it's interesting, like, culturally, like, because, like, in America we don't think about this, but, like, in Japan there's, like, a thing, like, I want to have this be an honorable fight. I want it to be 1-on-1. You got your best.
I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. I
Yeah.
know. I get it.
And then, so now we're getting into the Ichigo versus Grimjow fight. This
Called,
is like the third.
the chapter is called Jugulators.
Yeah. And Ichigo starts the chapter by just telling Orihime not to worry, he's going to fight. And there's this character, Nell. Which
Oh my
everyone
God,
knows.
yes!
Why is Nell in here?
You're already laughing.
Okay, so yeah, Nell talks like the most cliche little baby voice, like, "Oh, are we going to watch the fight? Oh, everything's so big
She
fighting."
speaks like with a lisp.
Yeah.
Nell. She's like, Ichigo, where you going?
It's so annoying.
It is.
Nell's partly in here. She's introduced at the beginning of this, like, once they get into Hueco Mundo, her and her, like, she has two other friends there with her that are the comedic reliefs that they go off and hang out with, like, Renji and Chad and Rukia. Well, this is
so
going on.
Nell's a girl?
What?
Nell's a girl?
Yeah, Nell's a
Okay.
girl.
Okay.
Oh, Nell's a girl.
I had no idea.
And
Wait,
so,
why is that shocking?
No, because, like, it's just like a gentlest little child from where
yeah. So you can't tell in the beginning, like, because, yeah, like, again, where you can only tell people are girls if they have big boobs. But Nell's here to be like, all hollows aren't necessarily kind of like evil, that they can be like good people in a way too. Like, as soon as they turn from the Gillen, which is like the lowest form of hollow, into whatever they are now, once they get like consciousness and a personality, like, they're not necessarily evil people. Like, Nell's just a little girl. But spoilers, it's revealed later that she was transformed into a little girl. Originally, she is originally a lady with giant boobs.
It's like shocking because I was like, "Where's the big boobs?" Like, oh, and they're past life.
Partway through another fight that happens, she gets so worried over Ichigo, she transforms back into her giant boob lady, which, because she's wearing little girl clothes, it barely covers her breasts. And she's only there for TNA, and she doesn't even beat the guy she's
that
fighting.
sucks. Why is it like this?
It sucks. It's basically the way I think about it.
Ryan, Japan is very sexually oppressed. Okay.
No, I get it.
But
just stop.
No.
Don't make it little kids. I just
No, but
like,
she's not a little kid. She's right. She's
She's
like,
well,
I'm a
that's what's weird.
1,000-year-old dragon lady.
No,
I'm not a child.
she mentally reverts to a child and turns into
Ryan,
one.
one of your favorite characters is the same exact thing. They're like, it's technically not a child when I fucked this girl named Hal Jordan fucked this girl. Remember that?
yeah, I know, and it's bad then too.
Yeah, and it's
But, like,
bad. It's
we
bad
had-
here too.
This is now the second time this happened. First, there was a cat that turned
But
into
that's
a big
different
boob
because
lady.
she was a grown lady the whole time. Here, Nell is actually mentally repressed, so this is really weird.
That is really
she's
weird.
like, now I'm turned into a big adult lady with big boobs.
Yeah.
Just like it's just, I find that it's so easy to not do that.
Yeah.
Why
Well, all you have
like-
to do is take your pen and not put it to the paper and not write that.
It is crazy.
The
'cause
problem is-
there's so many big boob ladies already that satisfy that requirement if you need
Yes.
it. Like,
The problem is, I think, like, with Kubo doing this, is he wanted to be like a twist, like, Nell is actually really strong. It's just that he sexualizes her when he does it, which is really weird.
Because he decided early on she has to be a girl. No, she decided early on that she's a girl. So now that she's a woman, she has to have big boobs. So that she has to be sexy. So
So that way, it's like, you know, she's a girl.
yeah.
It sucks. Nell sucks.
It sucks. Yeah, it
no one
sucks.
defend her. I've seen people say, like, even in the Discord, it's like, I kind of like Nell. I'm like, no, don't defend this. Because she does nothing other than worry about Ichigo the whole time.
And
so
the
you're
way
like,
she
okay.
talks is so fucking annoying. Goddamn.
Yeah. So Ichigo goes to fight Grimjow, and he flies off. He takes out his sword. He puts his sword into the Bankai form already. It's already, like, there. Which, again, another funny thing. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Ichigo, his Bankai's special power makes him a lot faster. There is not one person that's slower than him in this series. Even if his sword gives him the special power of speed, everyone's as fast as him. It's so dumb.
Well, that is the challenge. He has to keep. That's kind of a thing from the beginning though, because he's always at a disadvantage. So they kept going to perpetuity, and he's always fighting higher level enemies. So I never thought that was weird. Like, it's not like he's fighting like people on the streets. Like,
You don't think it's weird that like Byakuya gets a sword that can turn to a million petals and eviscerate guys, but Ichigo's like his one power is speed, and he does not fight one person slower than him.
No, not at the time, but eventually he outpaces them over time. Eventually,
with other powers, not just like his Bankai though.
No, I agree with that because, like, if you're gonna have everybody have these cool abilities, having one person just have those abilities, also other stuff, kind of diminishes it.
The reason why it doesn't bother me is because that's not his real power. His real power is just, I will win this fight no matter what plot
bullshit.
Yeah, like, that's his real power. Like,
I forgot.
It's like how Yugi's power. Yu-Gi-Oh's power is not. I have this medallion that must be tap into another form. His power is, I will win this fight no matter how much Pegasus uses his eye, no matter how much you use your fucking all these powers. I will win this fight.
But like in canon, he's supposed to be faster than anyone.
Yeah, I actually forgot that was a thing. I thought I thought his thing was the Getsuga Tensho.
Getsuga Tensho? No, that's just like what he can also do. It's sort of like how Byakuya can turn the rose petals into like a single sword.
Yeah.
Like, I've just been chomping at the bit, waiting to bring this up on the podcast. It's like fucking Tom King just had Superman beat Flash in a race because he's faster than him, and it's like, then why does the Flash exist? What's the fucking point?
Also, counterpoint, his power, he's a human. They keep saying human beings suck, human beings are shit. So I would say
that's true.
So I would say his speed is keeping him up to pace with people he should be up to pace with. So
he's not a human. He's a soul reaper now.
But everyone calls him a human being, saying like you're a shitty human being. So his Bankai just gets him up to the level where he can even catch up to these people where he's fighting. Where
I find that compelling. So
well,
I think that's a compelling argument.
Sure. I'm like spoilers. He's also a hollow, but
yeah, but like even like obviously he's a special character. But like the way I view all of his Bankais, it's always, I need to Bankai just to even start this fight, or else I will lose automatically. Yeah. So
there's actually a fight I skipped beforehand where he didn't want to Bankai against this other like trash mob dude, and the guy beat him so bad. Ichigo's like, I have to Bankai just to beat you. Again, like that kind of stuff. I hate that fight. Was just so purposeless because the whole fight is Ichigo like, I don't want to transform my sword to beat you, and so you read like 10 pages or 10 chapters, and then he's like, okay, I guess I will. And
I will defend that because it's like in the fucking RPG where you're like, I don't use all my hot cooldowns on something to me. Then you start dying, you're like, shit, I guess I got to.
Sure. So Grimjow,
we've all been there. Like, stop pretending, Darryl.
Stop pretending I haven't used my full power on you. I don't want
Darryl, you use Palkia to fight fucking youngsters. You can fuck
exactly. I go into
he always
Bankai
Bankais,
immediately. Yeah.
He Bankais on everyone.
That's why you're unrelatable, unlike Ichigo.
Yeah, that's true. So Ichigo's fighting. During this, Orihime's telling Nell, the little girl, it's like, he'll win for sure, don't worry. And she's like, no, he's scared. Everyone said that when they're scared. And she's like, no, he makes a promise to himself when he says this. When he says he's going to win, he'll win for sure because he can't let us down. And they're fighting. And this is where you get a lot of stuff where Phil was mentioning before, where it's like it can be difficult to track the combat in this, especially because like Grimjow keeps using giant lasers and blowing stuff up.
We should clarify.
Cool if you follow it.
We're very important to clarify when that little kid talks. The way it's written, it's every F is a TH.
Yeah,
he adds Y's randomly everywhere. It becomes really hard to read at random points.
I'm a big defender usually of accents written in comics because I think it gives more diverse dialogue. I think it's more interesting to read, but it has to be done in a way that's still like, it shouldn't slow me down that much. This is like hard to read.
Also, the character should be compelling that you want to read it. Like when Rogue and Gambit talk in Cajun and Southern dialects, you like Rogue and Gambit. You want to hear what they have to say. I don't give a fuck about this character. Stop.
That's actually, surprisingly, a pretty controversial take. Most people find it so annoying, but that is a good example of what I mean. Like, I like that.
I know, but that's why I bring it up, because people do find Gambit and Rogue annoying. But I have a problem with it because I like them as characters. Like, this character has nothing to do with the plot. He just interrupts the story with really hard to read dialogue.
Yeah, that's true.
So Ichigo and Grimjow fight a while, and during this, Grimjow's basically being like, you don't have any other reason to fight other than I'm a hollow and you're a Shinigami. This is the way it's been for thousands of years. Like, this is what we're meant to do. One of us is just gonna die. It's either you or me. This is great. Like, he loves it.
They're fighting on like these giant like pillars to these rock like.
Yeah. So Hueco Mundo's a giant desert with just like pillars strewn about, and this is where you get people criticizing Kubo because Kubo hates drawing backgrounds. And if you look at any panels, there's usually no background, and so basically he went
as an artist, I can relate. Like fuck
Yeah,
backgrounds.
but I mean, other people like the artist of Berserk, like he's really great with backgrounds and stuff. Whereas Kubo like never does it. So when you go from Soul Society, which is a city, to here, which is a desert with a couple easy to draw pillars, a lot of people like critique his art around this time because he just got like kind of lazy with drawing it.
Isn't that a trademark of Shonen too? Like in Dragon Ball, they fight in the emptyless like nondescript terrain all the fucking time.
Yeah,
like,
Dragon Ball, it still uses a lot of like detail on the ground and stuff. Again, if you look at like Kubo's stuff during this fight, how much stuff is there in the background?
It's just the two people fighting.
and also
Yes.
to back up the earlier point, that's also part of the reason why it's hard to follow the fights because he never repositions
Yes.
where everyone is in the.
That's a good point. You don't have any like structures to orient yourself with other than when he points at the ground.
They just seem like they're kind of like floating through the air at different points, and like Darryl said, Grimjo shoots these big lasers out of his hands, and then Ichigo throws his Getsuga Tensho, and like they Kamehameha into each other, and then the laser breaks through the Getsuga Tensho, and you know,
I love Getsuga Tensho. It's so pointless.
it's cool.
It's cool,
I do
but
really
never,
like this
it
is-
never kills anyone.
What's the Genshin Tensho?
The big black like slash that Ichigo
Yeah.
does always.
Oh,
It's
I
like-
didn't get it. I thought it was like an artistic design choice. I didn't get it. That was a fucking
No,
ability.
that's his one move. He doesn't get any other move. That's it. He just whoop fires.
spoilers?
It.
That's
Everyone
what-
everyone shoots lasers through, and they're like pathetic. And he's like, what, Nani?
Spoilers, Darryl. That's why Ichigo is my favorite shonen character of all time. We'll get into that when we get to the final fight, where all he does is fucking hit the enemy really hard.
Okay.
Sly, one day you'll have a regular middle of the road opinion and not this is the greatest or worst thing of all time.
That day will not be today, my friend.
So they keep fighting.
Hold on, just two things. I just want to say. One, coincidentally, when they say Getsuga, it's always broken up where it's get hyphen suga in like just because of the size of the word bubbles.
Yeah.
And I always read them as rogue saying sugar.
Get sugar.
Get sugar.
And the other thing, I really like the translations here because they do have a lot of just the two of them being like "fuck you."
That's what that was
Like literally, it
trash.
says "fuck you" in it.
Yeah.
That was trash talking the translations. I love them because they always say, "I'm gonna beat his fucking ass." Like fuck you.
Yeah,
Who
I'm gonna
the fuck
beat
you
his
think
ass.
you
I'm
are?
like, this is just so like that's not what they're actually saying, but they're trying to like translate it into like this is the energy I feel translating.
Yes, that's why it's good at translation. You capture the spirit, of
spirit,
the words.
yeah.
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 So as they're fighting, they keep shooting lasers at each other, and then Grimjo is like, "I don't want to fight this you. I want to." He's alluding to the fact that he wants to fight his hollow form. So he's
So
like,
an important thing is that when Ichigo used the hollow form the last time, he like whooped Grimjow's ass with it. So that's why Grimjow's like, I need to see that form again because I'm gonna kick that form's ass.
So then he pulls out the thing that only Espada are allowed to use, the strongest Sero, and he basically makes like a real. I said Kamehameha before, but this is actually one where there's a full splash page of him like lasering
2 pages.
2 pages of him like lasering this giganto beam.
Yeah.
It like just
So all the
destroys
Espada, it's like it says beforehand, it's like all the Espadas can use Seros, which are just big lasers. And it's like I have the biggest laser.
and he shoots it at Orihime.
Yep. So Ichigo has to like deflect it. So he does. He puts on. You see him cut through it, and then he has the mask on. And Grimjow's like, "Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
he's like,
hard
finally
now."
a real challenge.
Yeah.
And so he tells. So Orihime is freaked out by this, and and he says to her, Ichigo with the hollow mask says, "Sorry, I'm gonna end this fast." And
So Orihiba's now like scared of Ichigo. Like, who is that? Is that really Ichigo? He's like so scary now and stuff like that. Which gets into part 1 of why he was one of my favorites.
There's a scene when she's looking at him that it shows her brother with the mask on because that's the feeling she's getting looking at him.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
and what's cool is he tells her like just use your power to shield yourself and Nell. Don't lower it because this is gonna get real. And and Grimjow transforms to his super form.
Yeah,
which is,
grind Pantera, and so all of the Espada, the top 10 dudes, they have Bankais, but their Bankai, they put their sword essentially into their body and they transform into some kind of like beast or creature.
he looks pretty cool.
He looks like Scorpion, like an anime Scorpion. Like he has a tail and like
He's
full,
pretty cool,
full
yeah.
body.
But
suit.
he's got like long hair because he's supposed to be more like beastly, like more panthery.
Yeah.
But
And he's got like long ears.
And he goes, "Oh!"
Yep. And with the sound pressure, it blows Ichigo back, and he's like, "What? Stop doing this with just a scream!" And then he blasts off at him, and then they're fighting, and it's the Dragon Ball Z thing we're at now, where he punches Ichigo. Ichigo flies through multiple just like nondescript pillars, and then he teleports behind
use
him.
the pillars just for that purpose, where like you'll see them pop into the air, and then you'll see a crushing blow from Grimjow, and then you see Ichigo like his trail going downwards through the entire pillar. Like you can watch him just. You can see how strong he is through the destruction of the terrain, like Dragon Ball completely.
This is my favorite line. Grimjaw says, "Kurosaki Ichigo, those are good eyes. Those eyes piss the hell out of me." To be continued.
To be continued.
Yeah.
And so people in the distance are the other Espada, I think, are watching, and they're like, "That's a pretty crazy fight."
This is what's so annoying about this is the big boob lady. She's one of the Espada. She's number 2.
Okay.
And the ones in front of her are her fracciones. Every Espada gets their own.
To clarify, there's a woman with big boobs in this panel. It's not the big boob lady we were referring to before, the blonde lady.
Yes.
I know.
Poor Ryan. And she has 3 ladies, and these people are basically her underlings. These are her assistant captains.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Which again, why I was like, this is why this arc slows down so much, is because everyone has assistant captains that they're like, go and fight the other captain's assistant captains. They're like, I don't want to watch this.
Oh, Captain, my Captain!
And so they're watching, and like they're even from miles away, they're feeling like the wind of the explosions. And then she's the captain, I guess, is like, "Don't worry, this is what an Espada is like in their Rez-or-reck-zion form." And
well, she mentions it's like this is what you're feeling because the girls are acting tough. They're like, look at them, they're going crazy, like they're calling each other scared and whatnot. And the captain's like, you should value it because it's your primal fear, because it feels like it's 2 Espada fighting each other right now.
So in the middle of the fight, like Orihime's still scared, saying, "Is that really Ichigo?" And then the Grimjaw fires a bunch of shots at Orihime.
Yeah, he shoots spikes blades out of his elbow that like they launch into something then explode.
And Ichigo blocks of his body, and he stares at Orihime before he's turning back to the fight. And then Grimjaw notes that, you really wasted yourself trying to save her, you idiot. And this is why I love Ichigo, because he's the fucking Hulk. He has his dark side. He has to tap in for power. His lover's like, "I'm scared of you," and this is like power you have. And he's like,
now I understand a little more.
Yes.
Sly loves any character that other people are afraid of, and they're like, "You're too mad all the time."
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then Grimjaw does the classic anime thing. He points his elbow at a pillar and opens it up and shoots one spike and it blows up the entire pillar. And he's like, "You've already taken 5 of these and you're still standing, huh?" Yeah. And he's like, your mask is at its limit. And Ichigo's like, "Whoa, the hell are you talking to? You look pretty torn up." And then they start fighting each other again. And
no, he says, "To me, you look pretty turned up," but Grimjaw says, "Sorry, but your vision must be really shitty," and they start fighting.
Oh my god, I just hate it.
Yeah, this was when I was like...
How did you read this and say, "Oh, this Sly will definitely not love this"?
I don't know. I guess I should have known when they're like, "Fuck you."
I eventually was like, I can't, like, it was a cool fight, but it needed to end earlier.
Yeah.
I was like,
this is the things where it's like, 600 pages is a lot for you guys to read, but there's a part of me where I'm like, you need to know how long these fights go on that Kubo does, where it's like, again, you can find a good place to just put the end of the fight and be like, that was really neat, rather than just they keep going, and now Orihime's like, "I'm so scared of him," and then Nell, the little girl's like, "You need to cheer him on, like, don't be scared of him, that's still Ichigo under the mask, you have to cheer him on, because what's gonna happen to him if you don't?" And then she's like, "Oh, you got it," so she yells like, "Don't die, Kurosaki-kun."
And that's what powers him up, because as he tries to strike at him again, Ichigo grabs it and he's like, "Sorry, looks like I'm not allowed to take any more damage than this." And then so he's like, "I can't get hit anymore." He just cuts Grimjaw.
Yeah, and he cuts Grimjaw. It's just like, it's the stupid Renji bullshit where it's just like, I guess I'm just gonna beat you now because someone yelled at me or I remembered something.
Then he says, "What the hell is this shit?"
It does again, like. In like something like My Hero, they'll go through a great fight in always like one episode, and sometimes the biggest will be 2 or 3. I think is the biggest one I can think of. And that's multiple characters coming in and fighting this person, and like it satisfies you, and you want more, but you don't get it, so you feel like that was great. I wish I could see more. Here, I'm like, I've had enough. Please stop feeding me. Like,
Well, too with My Hero, it like every hit feels like it counts. Like if someone gets stabbed in the gut, you're like, they're probably gonna be down or like close to being out for the fight. Whereas again, you get this stuff where Ichigo slashes through Grimjaw, and you're like, boom, that's it, the fight's over. No, the fight's not over. It still keeps going.
And they do a great thing here where after Grimjaw gets slashed, they're like, we're gonna take a break, pause, so we can learn about the history of this villain because maybe he's actually not that bad.
Yeah,
maybe he's cool.
Again, I'm comparing this to Dragon Ball Z more, not like if I'm reading a fancy book, I'm comparing it more to Lord of the Rings than I am comparing it to Game of Thrones. Like,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
And
well, it's built. It's like the era after Dragon Ball, so it was improved on it. I think.
But Here Comes Evil is more recent, right?
My Hero Academia is very recent.
Yes.
Yeah, so I really don't think it's fair to compare. Like this is still a good for a time.
I still feel like I feel like fights in Naruto had this where it's like someone's out if they take a lethal hit. Whereas here again, like Grimjaw just gets cut right down the middle and he's still standing.
In terms of fighting, maybe Naruto's better, but Naruto also had episodes of filler where Naruto pees on people. So I'm like, fuck Naruto.
Hey,
it's a low blow.
I'm gonna defend Naruto. It's not all that, okay?
I know, but again, the thing what I like about this is again, it's all building something. While Naruto literally was like, we gotta kill time for 100 episodes. Like
that's like being like Superman fights. Yes, he fought Doomsday. That was pretty neat. But he also like in this Jimmy Olsen comic, he was really stupid. So
I know, but again, my defense is that I like this more than a lot of even like Naruto because it's building towards an overall larger plot.
You don't know what Naruto does. You didn't watch it or read it. So
I watched enough. I watched a chunk of it, but
next year, guys, we'll go through all that, right?
I'll read it. I like Naruto.
Right.
Anyway,
so we go to the villain backstory as anime must do. Villains must be redeemable. This is Grimjaw's backstory.
Wait, Ryan, you didn't like this? Because I feel like this is non-fighting, kind of like character building.
This I liked. It's just I just realized how not far into how much we read.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah. Anyway, let's blow through this.
So real quick, we have some backstory about the Arankars, the lowest level of them. They don't even have a mind. They're basically like hollows. That
I did think this was really cool, and all the designs were really cool. Yeah. I was like into this chapter.
They basically just eat other hollows of the same type as themselves, and they just basically become this pile of eating hollows that eat each other, and they have no individuality. They're just Gillian, which are these like piles of millions of hollows eating each other.
Hollow souls.
And eventually, sometimes during the cannibalism...
You said millions, but it says hundreds of thousands, Phil.
Get your
So
lore.
eventually, sometimes they can evolve by eating enough hollows. Like, they eat each other so much that one can, like, transcend. And those are called Ajucha. And this is where we get Grimjaw come in. And he's like this panther Ajucha who comes in and...
and it mentions too, like when this happens, like sometimes unique abilities or egos undergo like a transcendence, so they appear. So suddenly you have a personality that's been formed out of all these like souls. This collection.
And if you
of souls.
don't keep eating other hollows, you degenerate back. So you gain consciousness, but can go back to being like a pile of hive mind feelings.
Yeah, and one of the things they also mentioned that in rare occurrences in Gillen, upon transformation, the individuality that has not been completely lost surfaces. So like one person, like one spirit will like take over and control the whole hive mind, and that's when and then
that's when they're upgraded to a Ajucha, which is like you're not human form yet, you're more like beast. This is the big like animal or big monster form. Yeah. Hollows.
And if you go back to being a Gillian, you can never go back. So if you lose your personality, you never go back to it.
Oh, it's not explained. It's just like you can just never go back.
Yeah.
So you have
to.
Well,
I think it makes sense because I read it as when you're one of the souls that gets eaten, sometimes you're not completely erased. So if you get erased there, you're gone.
But this isn't about getting erased. This is just like if you don't eat a lot, you just transform back into a mindless thing.
Oh, you're saying like why do you have to keep eating? Yeah, I don't know.
And then so he runs into a bunch of other Ajuchas. They fight. They're like
they don't. He kills one of them, and then other ones show up, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna follow you because you seem really powerful, and
you shall become our king."
Yeah, we're all gonna rise to the level of being like human form hollows. We're gonna be the Arankar.
And so we take a break from that, and we go back to the fight. They're fighting. Your eyes.
Yeah, they fight a whole bunch, and then basically what happens is Grimjaw's like, "Well, I don't got much time left, so I'm gonna hit you with this very big ability that uses my like." Claws, and it's tough to tell what's going on. He's just shooting giant blades at him, I guess.
I thought that's what it was.
I thought it was 1,000 blades again. Byakuya's ability.
Descaron.
And then we go back. Then we go back to his past.
And this is where it's revealed, like, him with all the people that were following him, all the other hollows. They're like, you know what? We haven't transformed in a long time. We've been eating a whole bunch of people. So how about you eat us and you move forward because you're basically our king. You're going to be the one to transcend.
I love that.
And
idea
we'll
that, like,
live on in your like hive mind.
So this is fucking Highlander.
Yeah.
This is also why Sly likes Grimjaw.
Yeah, he says, "You
Got it.
cowardly bastards," and so he eats them. And so we get this backstory of him where he's like, he had to fight basically to gain his like personality and individuality, and he had to eat his friends.
Yeah, and he says, like, as he's fighting, he's yelling at Ichigo. He's like, "You're finished. You'll lose to me." He says, "They're all cowards, every damn one of them. As they become my flesh and blood, they will see beyond. I am the king." And then Ichigo cuts through Grimjow's attack, and then gives him a lethal blow as he says, "I will defeat Ukiura, and I'll defeat Aizen, and I'll save everyone. I can't be beaten by you." And boom, he cuts him down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
You got a shout out to Chad. He's like, I'll save
And
Chad.
Darryl cuts away, like when Darryl cuts away, he cuts away immediately. Like Grimjaw fucking gets his ass kicked, and it cuts to.
Well, it's because he's not dead yet. He keeps going on. For a little bit longer.
I figured that's why I pointed out.
And then Grimjaw gets killed by another one of the Espada, who has like this big weapon, and he's like, "Grimjaw's weak. I'm gonna be king." There's like 4 kings that all in this. It's so dumb.
It's a Game of Thrones in fucking.
That's true. Because there's another guy that was actually the king of the halls, and then Aizen shows up and literally kills all of his guys. And it's like, you're my bitch now. And he's like, okay. All right, so then we're skipping ahead now again to chapter. What chapter is this? 299.
It doesn't matter.
And this is what's happened is all of the Ichigo's friends, like the guy that killed Grimjaw, shows up and he beats Ichigo's ass because Ichigo can't fight another Espada after what had happened. So, but then in the middle of it, looks like everyone's about to lose. You know, Chad and the Quincy and Renji. Rukia beats her Espada, but then it looks like she's like dead or something. And then the captains show up. Kenpachi shows up and deflects this guy's attack, and Byakuya shows up to protect Rukia, and then you get the crazy Nazi scientist, which if you listen to our Patreon episode that we did this month, I talk about him a little more.
Oh,
and
he's
give
the guy
some
with the
backstory to
mask?
him. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and he shows up, and you can see like in his dialogue where he's like, he fights basically like another scientist guy that uses like voodoo dolls and whatnot, and just real quick, his way of beating this guy is the most like really cruel thing to do. He speeds up his reaction time so fast, the captain does to this Espada guy, to where like he feels things like 1,000 times per second. So then he stabs him in the chest, and it takes him 100 years to die, but he feels it for those 100 years because his reaction is so fast. Like, It takes like a second to do, but he's feeling 100 years of dying. And that's that guy in a nutshell.
Cool. That's a cool idea. I always wondered that about speedsters in general. It's like, doesn't everything feel like you're doing it for years? But, it's one of those.
Yep. Yeah.
So then we get to this cool fight. Byakuya versus a guy with a tiny sword.
Yeah, I forget what this guy's name is. It's another Espada guy. Each Espada is based after like some aspect of death or something, and he's like love of death or whatever, but he's love guy.
He's like, is he black? He seems like he's
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's Rukia's dead on the ground somewhere, or not dead, but like injured. And then it's Byakuya and this guy, and he's like, you can't save the down Shinigami. And Byakuya the whole time is just like, yeah, feudal. You think I can't do whatever I want? I'm very cool. Yeah. And so this.
I love is there's this panel of Byakuya's like, check this out. Like, what do you mean by feudal? And then he teleports behind him, and then in the panel is that guy teleporting behind him, the love guy.
Yeah, it is really funny. Like there's 2 of him at the same time because he's so fast.
Oh, this fucking fight!
And he's actually
no, he's not very fast. He's actually cloning himself.
Yeah.
No, he's fast enough that. Oh yeah.
He says like, these are not just. He says these are not.
No,
just
he's not cloning himself. He's fast enough that it results in quasi clones. They're not like full clones. It's like images of him.
But he says like they're full, like they can fully react and stuff. doesn't he?
Yeah,
Does he?
it's
Does he? No.
speedsters. So I just watched the Lego Flash movie.
Oh my
and,
God.
The Reverse Flash in it does the same kind of thing where he's like, I can move so fast that I'm in 5 places at once. But that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think
Because
they do
he's
fight.
doing 5. It's like, it's one thing. So the Flash would run back and forth so it looks like the Flash and Barry Allen are in the room at the same time. That's dumb, but that's more believable than being like in 5 different places, like doing different things at the same time. That's so dumb.
But here's because like Byakuya stabs one of the speed after images and it dies. Like he falls back. He creates another person. And in terms of it's not at the power level we're at. Like we're at legendary power level. Like I'm willing to buy that you can be so fast you can create like another person. I'm like,
yeah, like
Sure. Okay.
it's just
you're
it's
not
funny
wrong.
that he explicitly says I'm moving fast enough to create quasi clones.
Yeah.
What is quasi about it if he could do his own thing and also die?
But I don't know if he does his own thing.
I view it as like when you have like a legendary figure in mythology who like, can lift mountains. He's so strong he can lift mountains. Like being so fast, you can create an after image that's so realistic. It seems like another person. I'm willing to buy that. Like in terms of
Sure.
the power scale we're at, where you're blowing.
Yeah.
You can blow up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like
That's
you can
fair.
blow up a fucking city.
So
by accident.
Byakuya cuts down one of them, and he's like, "Ha! I can actually make 3 of them." And Byakuya's like, "I figured as much." And then he shoots a laser through them, and he's like, "Ha! I can actually make up to 5 of them." And he cuts Byakuya up, but then Byakuya's like, "Check this out." He disappears because he learned a ninja trick from Cat Lady, and so he's like, "Check that out. You didn't even hit me."
It's Utsusemi, which is a ninja move in Final Fantasy XI.
Yep.
Just fun fact.
Yeah. And then this guy's like, Byakuya's like, the arrogant one is you, Espada. And then what happens is then the love guy's like, okay, I see, you're really strong, so I'm gonna go into my Rez-or-reck-zion, the Espada Bankai. He puts his sword into himself, and what does he turn into, Ryan?
Oh man, I don't even know how to
A
describe.
pumpkin with 100 eyes?
Yeah, so he's basically at first I thought he was wearing a big gown, but I think it's like a pumpkin that instead of the stem he's sticking out, and every like are those gourds? What are those? Like every like section of the pumpkin has another face with one big eye on it, and his body's covered in eyes.
Yeah.
And also he has a beard now.
So
He had a little goatee, now he has a full beard.
I think it's like black paint, sort of like how Grimjow got that
Yeah,
around
it's
his
like
eyes.
their makeup.
So this is the fight I said one of my favorite fights in anime history. This design's so weird, but it's like so weird that it reminds me of like something like the writer who did those horror
Junji Ito?
Junji Ito. He's almost like surreal, like creepy kind of look to it. Like all these
It
eyes,
is creepy.
Like all these eyes on him, and it's also interesting just because design. He's a black character, which you rarely see in a
that's
role
true.
like this. And he
Again,
looks like,
Kubo's fairly good about introducing a lot of black characters. Like one of the strongest guys in the final arc is a black guy.
yes, and so like I just kind of like. And you have Byakuya, who was the pinnacle of power of the story we've fought so far. And you have this guy who's strange the entire time. He like twists his neck sideways before he does this, and he turns into this weird eye monster.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah,
Like-
and when he pulled to start the fight, he has his hands in like praying position, and he puts one of his hands out, and there's an eye in his palm.
And Byakuya teleports away, and he's like, whoop, trying to dodge it. And he's like, your intuition told you something, there was going to be attack, but there wasn't. Deplorable for something has already happened, and then there's like a mark on Byakuya's leg.
I just want to say he called him deplorable, which
Yeah.
I've learned is just as bad as any other crime you could ever possibly
how
do.
dare
So
he.
obviously this guy is the true villain.
Well, you see, he's the bad guy, and you see the true bad guy is the one who
that's
calls
true.
you a deplorable. So
Yeah,
Right.
he called the upstanding man like Byakuya. So
And
he
this is great. I love this. This is so stupid. Like,
oh my god,
Yeah,
you guys
this is-
are going to like the final arc so much. This is what it's gonna turn into.
so Byakuya has a mark on his left leg,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like some like flower looking thing, and he's like, hey, guess what? Everything in this world has a sovereignty to it, and the same way underlings are controlled by their leaders, citizens controlled by their kings, clouds are controlled by the wind, moonlight is controlled by the sun. The ability of my power is to steal the sovereignty of whatever it sees, and it's the power of love.
Yeah.
And-
So this is why I like this fight, because at this point it's like two mythic entities fighting each other, and now this is why I love comics in general. I don't think Shonen taps into this enough. I love seeing two completely different power sets fight against each other. I hate anime where it's just I'm really
Two beam
strong.
guys.
Yeah, I'm really,
That's
really strong,
true.
I'm really fast, and they just clash each other over and over. I love that this guy's power is I can possess a part of your body now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
there's a lot.
it's like how will this traditionally anime hero Byakuya counter this?
There's a lot of fights that in Bleach that this is why I was like, I wanted to talk about this series is because it has a lot of interesting powers where you're like, oh, this is cool. Like whatever this guy looks at, he controls. So he's like, check this out. He waves his hand. He's like, come forward to me, left leg. And Byakuya moves his leg because he has no sovereignty over it anymore.
This is so great because his left leg drags forward. Byakuya looks down at it like very coldly. And the guy's going on. He's like, resistance is meaningless. You can't control it. And he interrupts him, and Byakuya cuts his left leg's tendons off so he can't move.
So, okay, I just want to say really quick, I think that this power is really cool. I think the execution is really cool. The only thing that took me out of it is this whole explanation about sovereignty and everything felt like too clever by half. Like, I feel like if he just said, like, anything I look at I can control, I would have bought it more than this, like, really dramatic speech.
It's a very Japanese thing, I think.
I disagree, and this plays into that what Darryl said. He's an aspect of death representing love. I think when you get into like this weird abstract concept, I think
that's fair.
I think that's really cool. And
oh my god, Slice should read more of this. This is stupid. There's one guy in particular I think you like who's the aspect of aging.
So, I would fucking love this. I'm loving the shit. As I said, it's one of my favorite fucking fights I've ever done.
I did really like this fight. So he's like, all right, so that's a good idea. He says a prompt decision with immediate effect, laudable. Well then, how about this one? And
we show some emphasize. This whole time, and there's no reason I like this fight. This whole time, Byakuya's like, "You're nothing to me." I'm like, "This fight's already over. I'm just like figuring out how to beat you." And the guy's like, "You fucking arrogant prick. I'm much above you." Like the whole time, they're like, "I'm way above you. I'm way above you," and you don't know the whole time who is above who. Yeah.
And then finally, the assistant captain for Byakuya shows up. He's like, "Hey, I'm here."
Oh, it's not his assistant captain. It's the healing captain's assistant captain.
It's that cowardly guy who I got confused for Rukia before.
Oh my god, you remembered! I was afraid you wouldn't.
That's what I'm talking about. I remember everyone now. Like I was like, confused because I didn't know who the characters are. But if I get introduced to them, I will remember them. Darryl.
I'm
That's
so
who I am.
surprised. This is the last important thing he does in the entire series. I don't think he's in the final arc. So this guy, the love guy, looks at his like hand, and Byakuya has to cut his wrist basically. And then
so it's his left side, so he still has his right arm and right leg.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "You discarded your left hand, left leg. It's pretty, you cut it away. You see anything that's not possessed by you is an enemy, and that's I can understand that. But here's the thing: I'm so much above you, like Sly said. And how about this? And he controls Rukia's head, which makes him control the whole body.
Yep, and then he cuts down that assistant captain that was he's just here to be comedic relief. And then as Byakuya goes to stop her, she puts her sword to her neck. She's gonna kill herself.
I have a question about this.
What?
So he can take away someone's sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if someone is controlling something, he can take it away. But their head is them. Nothing's controlling the head. It is where the control comes from. Yeah. I don't understand how
I assumed it was controlling, like, her body.
Yeah.
Like, she's just
so, like, if she wasn't
the head
unconscious...
controls the body, if your sovereignty of that... It's just like, if you take over a nation, you own, the people that are all under it.
Okay. No, that makes more sense. Yep. So, it's like, he's not really controlling her whole person. He's controlling everything the brain controls.
Yes.
So, like, the brain, she would still be able... If she wasn't unconscious, she would still have her own thoughts and stuff.
And that's the cool, creepy thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's the creepy thing about this fight, because this guy's slowly possessing her whole entire body, and he's slowly doing it to Byakuya, and I'm, like, wondering, like, is he going to completely take over Byakuya in this fight?
And the hostage situation's pretty interesting, too, because you're like, she will kill herself. Like, what do you do about that?
Yeah, he has control.
Yeah. But if you remember, the Soul Reapers all have those, like, Kidos and Bakudos.
Magic spells, so he just points his finger at her, and it's like, boom, now she can't move.
He basically puts her in, like, a paralysis prison of light, and he's like, hey, guess what? You're trash. Control. I don't give a shit about any of this. And he summons
Bankai, baby.
He summons all his 1,000 blade abilities, and he's like, try controlling a
Senbon Zak.
You try controlling 1,000 blades with your 50 eyes, you motherfucker. And goes, and then he says Bankai and kills the guy. And that's why this fight's so fucking cool, because it's like a puzzle where Byakuya slowly figures out how to defeat him, and then it makes sense. Like, he makes 1,000 blades, like, control these motherfucker and kills him.
It is great.
The only thing I agree in theory, but the only thing that held me back from it is it's like he spends all this time trying to figure it out, and he's like, "Oh, I've figured it out. I've cracked the puzzle. It's the thing that I'm."
No, I don't think he was ever trying to. He always said, "You've lost already. I am."
I was just saying, we as a reader are trying.
Why not just do that then?
I think it's for us, the reader. It's for we, the reader, to slowly figure out how to do it.
It is to be like, I'm just drawing this out for coolness.
It's like Sly said, you don't use your special cooldown. Yeah.
Senbon Zakura.
Even though this guy can can look at anything and control it, which is
And this is the first time I've ever like
the strongest Espada power. He's like number 7 or 8. I'm like, there's no one. Number
It's
one,
because there's gaps in it, obviously.
but you can look at stuff and then control it. Do you know what number 1's power is? He has a gun.
Gun shoots.
Who needs courage when you have a gun?
yeah,
So,
exactly. Like,
I want to say the art here is great. As the swords fill the air, you just see the Espada guy looking into this vortex of swords, and Byakuya says, "Which of my blades that cover the heavens do you intend on controlling?" And you see sweat pouring down this guy's face. And he's like, "I'm gonna kill you."
I just want to say real quick. Darryl said the first part of this. Oh, when Bankai comes out, I'm always so excited for it because you want to see what their form is. This is the first time I've ever been like, yeah, fucking Bankai, because whenever Bankai...
now you understand Bleach, where you see someone, they're like Bankai, and you're like, yes, it's about to get real.
But usually that's why I don't like it, because like the fight's going to drag on much longer, and I'm like, oh my god, please fucking end. I love it as a finisher, where... I do this now, Bankai, you're dead. I think you're already
Bankai's
dead.
Finisher,
I'm not a huge fan of I'm going Super Saiyan. I'm a huge fan of You're Already Dead.
Okay.
I love You're Already Dead. That's my favorite thing in the whole fucking anime.
I'm sorry, I should have included one more chapter, because this guy's not dead yet, but he does a thing where basically he's yelling at Byakuya as he's like bleeding to death and stuff, and Byakuya does like, what was it? I think he ends up killing him where it's like, I'm not killing you because you're a hollow, I'm killing you because you raised your sword against my pride.
Wow.
And then he kills him.
Byakuya is cool.
Back in my favorite character now. For sure confirmed.
All right, and so we're almost done for this episode. We're gonna get to like a plot thing. The rest of the captains beat their dudes. Kenpachi has a really stupidly long, boring fight where he's just like slamming swords against this one guy. And then I included this where you get like a character poll where it rates like the people. And number 6 is Momo, most popular character in Bleach.
How did Momo survive?
It doesn't explain. It's like, it's sort of like how you have healers there. They're just like, I just heal Momo, and you're like, okay. After Aizen had killed her last time. Number 5's the Quincy. 4's Grimmjow. 3's Ichigo. 2's Rukia. Number 1, Little Boy Captain, which is okay. So we cut ahead, and this is when Aizen's like done just letting his Espada lose to all these people, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go to Karakura Town. And I'm going to decimate it, I'm going to blow it up, and I'm going to get the royal key. So
Why did he wait so long?
See, this is where this is so dumb, because he is so strong, but it's like, it has to go according to Kikaku. Like,
well, Darryl sums it up in the direction. He said like he got bored. He's like waiting for everyone else to do his shit. And he's like, I'm bored, let's do it now.
I think it's because he wanted to see if his Espada could beat Ichigo and their friends, I guess. But basically, he needed all the captains to come here because he reveals to them his master plan where he's like, I wanted to split the Soul Society captains in half. That's why we have like Kenpachi's here and Byakuya's here and the Nazi captains here, or the Nazi doctor captains here. And he's like, I need you guys to be here and Ichigo, and now I'm going to cut off your exits so you can't get out of Hueco Mundo.
Okay, so
and
that
now
makes more
I'm going to teleport into Karakura Town and just kill everyone.
And it's gonna be like only because already two captains defected or 3 captains defected.
Yeah,
so
because
it's
if you remember, he has Gin and he has the blind captain with him.
right. So they have a lot of now. It's like only a few captains left in the mortal world.
But here's the fucking twist.
Yeah.
It's not Karakura Town. They made They made a... Go ahead. Okay, they made a perfect replica of Kira Town and teleport Kira Town somewhere else.
It's fucking Blazing Saddles, guys.
And it's such a long exposition, which is, again, like, I was thinking of just summarizing it being like, they just made a fake version of the town and teleported the town into Soul Society for, a couple hours.
No, I'm glad you left the exposition in because it's so fucking stupid. And
then when fucking Aizen shows up, he's like, I knew this was a fake Karakura Town.
Yeah, it's like, oh, all according to Kikaku. But anyway, he goes there, he teleports over there, but the captains are waiting in fake Karakura Town for him. And Kenpachi explains to Ichigo, he's like, they did this so that all the remaining captains of the Gote 13 can, and I quote, go balls out in Karakura Town without incident.
And so, as it says, it's like taking candy from a baby. And it says in the, to be continued, candy from a baby, my ass. The big boys are finally going to throw down.
Yeah. So now, and then Aizen teleports all of his captains there, where he's like, I was expecting this. Here's all the Espada, the top 3 Espada can now fight you. And Ukiura, sad goth boy, who's been just hanging out, he's going to look over Orihime. and protect her. Even though he said, like, Orihime's pointless to me, like, she was purposely a diversion because I knew you guys would think she's useful because she can reject things, but I didn't even care about her. So now we have this set up. So in Karakura Town, we have all the captains and the Espada fighting each other and all their lieutenants and stuff. And now Ichigo has to go rescue Orihime.
This could be so cool if it wasn't so long. I feel like I got so pumped for this, except for the thought of either watching it or reading it would be like the rest of my life doing it.
It is.
Yes.
Where I'm like, it's such a cool idea to have these, like, you've built up these big groups of people who are really strong and now having like a big showdown. But the fact that like it would take 5 years to read, I'm like, that sucks. That sucks.
so painful.
But that's why I'm torn, because I have this experience a lot reading a lot of comics, because a lot of comics portrays they cut away from a story arc and they sum it up, and I'm like, that sounds so cool. I wish I read that, but it's like so time consuming to read all those fucking issues.
Yeah.
But like, I would love to read like a Dragon Ball Kai version of this where you just edit down to like.
Yeah.
I mean, you're reading it right now.
That is what we're doing. I've been thinking about this whole time, where I'm like, this is pretty good. Like, even the parts I don't like I said, I still think it's like pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's because you've made Bleach Kai.
Yeah, you made Bleach Kai.
And I included the Byakuya fight. That's not like plot necessary, but I wanted to show you because I did think that was a really cool ability that guy had, and that was the most interesting captain fight. That was like comprehensible. The Nazi doctor fight is like also kind of interesting, but the Byakuya one is like what 2-3 chapters, so it's very digestible. And that was my litmus where I was like, if you don't like this, you're gonna hate Bleach forever for now. But since you guys like it, I'm like, well, joke's on me. I'm Boo Boo the Fool.
We got you.
Daryl, I'll stand by you as your assistant captain who thinks this is dumb.
You're my assistant captain.
This is the ultimate of manga, where the more over top it gets, the more me and Phil are like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
While
Then, man, this final arc is going to be wild.
I will say, I don't think this was better than the other two arcs. I can still enjoy it for something else, like for its own.
Wait. We'll save our thoughts for when we finish it, so we can talk about where it may have gone wrong, because we still have the Aizen fight to get to.
Okay.
So, Ryan.
So we're taking a break now, and we'll see everyone back next week.
we should cover. We're taking a break for like a weekly podcast release. We're fucking reading all this at once.
Oh yeah, we're about to record.
I know. I just say to the audience, like, this is taking forever to fucking record.
Okay, jeez.
Make sure to thank
So-
Ryan.
Yeah.
Wait, why me? You're the one who edits.
Not you, the Patreon.
Oh, you're right. It's okay. I mean, you can thank me if you want, but I would. So it's a new month, so we have a new Patreon episode. Darryl already mentioned it about we talk about this Nazi doctor captain guy, and also like what it means to be a sympathetic villain, and is that good, and like some of like the politics behind that, and like we haven't had like a discussion episode in a long time, and yeah, I definitely recommend that. That's at the $5 a month level. Just go to flyingmachine.network/support or patreon.com/flyingmachine, and we have a new Patreon backer, and he's not that new because I keep forgetting, even though we talk in the Discord every day
And have
So
the
thank
same
you.
name.
Yes, and he has the same name, so I'm always like, it's me. I made this happen. So thank you very much, Ryan Pigeon, for backing us, and we hope that you've enjoyed this Bleach adventure so far. But I also want to mention a specific plug that is a very good, fun announcement for me. I've mentioned the music column and audio versions that I have on the Patreon at the $1 level, but as of yesterday, I do also have a public version of the show that has a 6-month delay. So, well, there's only one episode out now. It came out yesterday on the 5th. And everything will be also on franzradio.com, just like this website. Just like the show is on that website. But I released the May episode on the Cranberries in the End, and it's all about death and, how to, unlike Bleach, how to actually when you feel like you're going to die, how to make good use of your time instead of just powering through.
Just go forever, never die, never kill anyone.
Yeah. And so that, it's called 33 1/3 Under 45. It's in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all those places. Just search that, and yeah, you can listen to that first episode. And if you like it, there's like 20 more of them on the Patreon, or wait another month and you'll get what I wrote in June. So yeah, that's fun. Okay. So thank you for listening to Divisive Issues. I've been mentally reduced to a child, even though I'm really a super hot lady.
I've been releasing my hollow form and scaring all my friends.
I've been the aspect of death that's also love.
And I've been these guys' Nakama. Aren't we Nakama?
Stay in continuity.